What a beautiful day today to celebrate Boston and beyond. The Boston Strong shirts were actually all around southern New England, even if they weren't in attendance at the marathon today. My goodness, could you have gotten a more spectacular day? Although, having been a previous serious runner, you're saying, what? You, the chubby guy on television? Yeah, in my day. This was a warm day for the marathon. It really was. We'll chat about that. We have a nice conversation today, an interesting one. The LBGTQ Center at URI will be newly constructed, a new commitment to diversity and the like at the University of Rhode Island. I've got some questions. You've got some questions. It'll be interesting to talk about how we got here from there and what that center will do. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's go to the rundown, see what we got. Yep, Marathon Day. So far, so good. We record the show late afternoon. So yeah, you thought it was live, didn't you? Almost live. And so far, so good. It was all right. But it was kind of a fast day when it comes to some of the running times. At the same time as the day wore on, I'm sure it got kind of warm out there. We'll talk a little bit about that. What else do we have on our plan here today? The House Speaker. Very interesting newsmaker show this weekend with the National Education Association executive director making some provocative guesses as to how the governor's race is going to go. Yep, it's that week. What to do with the kids? We've got a solution for you. And how, in heaven's name, this kid is alive is beyond anybody's wildest expectations. Let's dig in a little bit before we get to our guest segment this evening. So far, so good. It seemed like a just drop-dead gorgeous day in Boston. Of course, here's Hopkinton, where we have a headline. Here's a theme here, the Boston Globe's headline, resolute and ready. Everybody was. Kind of a funny Easter, right? I'm guessing there was some big carb loading, which would be good for me because I'm tired of the ham anyway. No more ham. No more ham. But these people, I'm sure, were carb loaded and ready to go as they walked to the starting line. Have you ever done this? If you've never done this, you got to do this. There's nothing like starting with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. To begin, even some 5K races have this kind of crowd, but there's nothing like a marathon. I tried once. I bored the radio audience with my stories. I ran New York in 1981, except I didn't make it. 17 miles. I was so well trained. Definitely going to run it in about 3 hours. I was a college kid. I was in good shape. Raised a blister. Pulled off at 17 miles. Brutal. Really disappointed. Turns out I had mono. Spent the rest of my spring in bed, soaking the sheets with mono. Could have had my spleen explode. Why am I telling you all these stories? I'm just trying to commiserate with the runners. You never know what you're going to get in a marathon. 26 miles. It is not an easy thing, and a lot of those people who did it today for the first time ventured into something that they may never again, but there was a spirit in Boston that was just incredible, and the mayor certainly captured it.
So many people running for so many different causes today, for survivors, for lost loved ones, and you know, there's going to be so many people on the route just cheering everyone on today. Somebody just said to me, everyone that runs today is a winner.
I mean, you feel that way, especially if you finish. And of course, even as we record today, there's still some people that are trying to trudge up Heartbreak Hill one way, shape, or form. My point about the weather is that it was beautiful. It was a fast day, as I note here, and we see some of the times. First of all, we've got some roll of the tremendous, incredible, world-class athletes that involve themselves in this race. There's our female winner, Rita Jeptu, and the male winner, who's Meb Keflezgi, is how you say it. We got some times here that we can post. 2:08:37 is a pretty solid men's winning time. That's a course record for the women, and boy, it's incredible how the women just keep closing the gap, it seems, on the men. Do you have any idea how fast that is? Take out a little metric timer or something on your smartphone. That's an average of around 5 minutes a mile. Have you run a mile ever in your life? It's incredible. It was hot, though, for a lot of the runners who were in the middle of the pack and back of the pack. The longer you're out there, the tougher it is. So a 60-degree day with the wind blowing is nice for the leaders, but not so much. You need an overcast day for most of the runners. Anyway, great job. Security seemed to be incredible at the marathon. All-around success for Patriots Day. Moving on. Fox on the Run. The Speaker of the House, Gordon Fox, is putting his house up for sale, it seems. We have a headline from WPRI.com. It's on the market. Nice looking home. $615,000 is the asking price. It seems like the former Speaker of the House is shutting it down completely with this sale of his home. And I just note for the record that while he's selling his house, this of course after the raid, I didn't have to remind you of that, did I? March 21st, the raid where the IRS, the feds, and the stadies came in and took all his records, and reports last week from Target 12 indicated that it was campaign finance and maybe some personal finance problems and Board of Elections challenges and all that kind of thing. The Speaker, former, now still state representative, is still taking his payroll and his benefits while he's shutting it down. I wonder if he'll do the right thing and stop taking the taxpayer money if he's not going to do any more work for us. Hate to beat a guy when he's down, but, you know, got to do what you got to do. He should. Next item. This is fascinating. Bob Walsh, the executive director of the National Education Association, appeared on Newsmakers this weekend. Here are the three candidates for governor on the Democratic side. Well, there's a fourth, Todd Giroux. We didn't put him in there. Apologize to him, but he's got a negligible following. There's Clay Pell on the left, Gina Raimondo in the middle, and Angel Taveras on the right side. Clay Pell is the candidate who is backed by the NEA, and he's got a 15% in the polls. It's early, but so far he hasn't been able to muster much, right? But the teachers union thinks more or less he's going to win, and an interesting psychology from the executive director of the NEA, Bob Wall, suggesting that if he doesn't, the Democrats won't.
I think that Clay Pell's going to win the Democratic primary and then beat Ken Block, who I think is going to win the Republican primary in the general election. I don't see them voting for Gina Raimondo, and I think that should give anyone who wants to get a Democrat-elected governor pause. And I don't understand the long-term strategy of supporting someone who can't win in the end game because a big block of labor union voters are so upset.
To bring Bob in here, interesting. I've wondered what the NEA strategy is because I've always told you that Clay Pell draws from Angel Taveras. So if Clay Pell is rising in the polls and with the votes on primary day, he pulls from Angel Taveras, making Gina Raimondo the odds-on favorite. Bob is saying, guess what? Too many union people won't vote for Gina Raimondo if their life depended on it. And so if you're Ken Block or Alan Fung, the Republican, right now you're thinking, that's the best news I've heard all day. Next item. It is. It is. It's a wonderful time of the year. Easter, I hope you had a great one. Jesus is risen. Passover has been celebrated. We now have a week vacation, Patriots Day in Massachusetts. And by tomorrow, you're like this with your kids, right? What do you do with the kids? Well, Jess came up with a great idea. Just let your fingers do the typing. Type in things to do during school vacation week. And voila! Calendars of events, all sorts of things. No deep discussion here, just wanted you to know that you don't have to suffer wondering what to do with your children, and a lot of those things are free. So celebrate the spring with the vacation and things to do. Google, technology, it's a wonderful thing. And lastly, how in heaven's name did this happen? Did you see this? 16-year-old California runaway survives flight to Hawaii in plane's wheel well. He ran away, jumped the fence, angry at his family, jumped the fence at the airport in, where was he? He was in California. Where is it? San Diego somewhere? Santa Fe somewhere? Yeah, anyway, this kid jumps the fence and gets into the wheel well. You know, where he jumps into there. And he had 80-degree below zero temperatures at 36,000 feet for much of the flight to Hawaii. He passed out. They landed. He was fine. Now look, we all ran away, right? I ran away. You know, your kids have tried to run away. They get about as far as the front door or maybe the front yard. You know, all huffing and puffing and packed and ready to go. 16-year-olds, it gets a little bit more sophisticated, I guess, but not as sophisticated as what this kid has pulled off. Only God's mercy. You wonder if there's a God? Only God's mercy takes a kid in a wheel well of a major airline, flies from California to Hawaii in that kind of freezing temperature, and he comes out fine. I wonder what the family discussion was like after that whole thing resolved. The miracles of life. When we come back, this new LBGTQ Center at URI. Stay tuned to MyRI TV. We shall talk about it. Stay with us. So there's been a little controversy at the campus of URI lately about whether or not things have been, well constructed diversity-wise. There's been a little bit of challenge there, but now it seems like things are all smoothed out with a brand new investment over $2 million. Here's the headline: new LBGTQ. Practice that, because those letters is on the way, and that's a cool thing. And Annie Russell is the new director. Well, not new, but it'll be new,
yep.
Right? So you'll be the director of the new center.
Years. Yep.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice
Thanks
to have
for
you. Jim Hummel from the Hummel Report was showing me some stuff a few weeks ago where there was some challenges, I guess, between the administration and the. You can't just say gay population, right? It's you got to let the whole thing roll off its tongue. But
yep.
There were some challenges, and now this administration decision for this new center, has it cured it? Are things okay now?
That's a really good question. I think this decision actually had come a while ago. About 2 years ago, the president approved plans for the construction of this space, and so this is definitely not a new thing. But our groundbreaking and the announcement about this center is the piece that's been new in the last week or so. So I think over the course of the 2 years that I've been there, we've done a lot of work to improve campus climate for LGBTQ people. We certainly have done a wealth of new programming, new education on our campus. We also are collecting data for the first time on people's attitudes towards gender and sexuality issues and what that means for our students, our faculty, and our staff. So I definitely have seen significant growth and improvement in a lot of the ways that we are approaching gender and sexuality issues. Of course, I would never claim that our issues or any sort of trouble that someone might come across or a feeling of not feeling included will ever completely go away, because we all live in this world where unfortunately we don't always feel totally included in the world, in the space that we inhabit.
We being?
Queer people in particular. Identify.
Can I just say something to you?
Yeah.
That is the toughest word, I think. The LBGT, the lesbian, gay, bi, and trans thing rolls off my tongue.
Yep.
That queer thing is hard
totally
for
get
me,
it.
because I grew up in a time when you call somebody queer,
Absolutely.
It wasn't nice.
It was the worst thing you could call someone.
So what up
right?
with that? Help me understand.
Yeah. So it's definitely a generationally and culturally bound term. Nowadays, this word in particular, queer, has seen a reclamation. So a lot of folks that are of a younger generation have positively reclaimed that word and use it very proudly to identify themselves. We even have things in the academy, queer studies, queer theory, that have positively reclaimed that word. Yes, so in terms of academic research and focus and majors and minors in colleges and universities, there's queer studies, there's queer theory that we talk a lot about. And so, but I wouldn't claim that everyone definitely signs on to feeling like that's an affirming term, right? I definitely am a little bit older than the student population that I work with. I, like you, remember a time when this word was not okay.
Yeah, I can't ever see it coming out of my mouth in a conversation, simply because it's not because I can't adjust. It's just because it's very much like there's an N-word type of thing that goes along with it, right? The N-word is something that seems to be owned now by the younger generation of African Americans, to the chagrin of older African Americans who know what that used to be. And the difference here being, though, you're okay, or I didn't say you, but how do I refer the queer community? If I called a younger person who is queer and gay the same thing? Gay has historically been used as kind of an umbrella term. I would say currently queer is being used and sort of reclaimed in a similar fashion. And so there are many people who use queer as an umbrella term. That's not to say that everyone is okay with that word or even identifies. Right. So here's the question I have: is the N word is off limits? We get it, and what's going on within the black community about it is kind of like their thing to have to get. Is the queer word also? If I called somebody queer, would it be in the spirit of trying to assimilate, would I be making a mistake?
That's a great question. I think it totally depends on how that person identifies themselves. Intention means everything, right? You can certainly tell the difference between someone intending to use the word in an oppressive manner or not. But I would say that unlike the N-word, queer as an overarching term is something that's very present in the LGBTQ community.
And it means what?
Really can mean anything. It can mean that a person does not fall within the heterosexual spectrum. It can mean that a person identifies their gender differently. And so queer as a term is really ambiguous. It's amorphous. It's hard to sort of put your finger on what that exactly means to every individual.
Right, so when we come back, we'll talk about what the center will do for all 5 letters, L, B, G, T, Q, and for those of us who call ourselves straight. We'll be right back. So welcome back. You know, we're terms are interesting, right? And I mean, they really are. And words evolve, and sometimes you have to do a little research and catch up as to what is the new conversation. But this LGB, Lesbian, Gay, Bi, Trans, Queer Student Center, big investment by the administration for this. First of its kind, I'm told.
Absolutely.
Why?
I think it's a lot of reasons. I think the university recognizes that people who are underrepresented in terms of gender and sexuality, our LGBTQ community, have a strong desire to have voice and permanence on our college campus. We're currently housed in a residence hall, which has been fantastic from my view. I worked at a center that was really only a closet. It was one room, and here we have about 5 or 6 rooms at our disposal currently in Adams Residence Hall. However, we do a wealth of programs throughout the year, social events as well as educational events that currently always take us outside the boundaries of the space that we hold.
What's the population?
It's hard to estimate for sure on our campus because we don't require people to identify. That would be, of course, against federal and state law. But what we do is really try to track data in terms of the people that visit our spaces and come to our programs and services. National estimates put any given population, the queer population, to be between 10 and 15%. So that would be roughly...
There's so much argument over that, isn't there? I mean, depending. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
People watching the show will say, well, why is it necessary? And your short answer to that is what?
There are 3 reasons this is necessary. Number 1, we're an institution of higher education. And the goal of an institution of higher education is to expand our thinking, to be able to provide education. And that's the goal and mission of our LGBTQ Center. So it's really not about just serving the students, faculty, and staff who do identify as LGBTQ, but providing education to the entire campus community.
So it will be a welcoming place.
Absolutely.
Are you sure of that?
Absolutely. We've spent a year and a half designing the space with LLB Architects. We've had a group of folks that have been involved in the process throughout, but also at every stage of the designs have taken those back to our campus community.
Will events come in that will be open to the campus community in general with a purpose to say, look, we want you to be included in our community type of thing? Because sometimes when you identify, when I have a college kid, and she tells me that on her campus, it's very interesting that identity for groups, whether they be ethnically identified or racially identified or gender identified or orientation identified, tend to be non-productive sometimes, on her campus anyway, in terms of everyone feeling like they could belong. And she felt like it becomes kind of counterproductive. You got to be careful of that, right?
Absolutely. I think it's all in the way that you design your services and your programs and what you're about. We have a mission in our center that says we are a place for allowing people to affirm all of their multiple and intersecting identities, regardless of what they are. Our slogan is, you don't have to come out to come in.
Say that slowly.
You don't have to come out to come in.
And you also don't have to intend to come out to come in.
That's right. That's right. We intentionally design a number of services to educate people who don't identify as LGBTQ. We've trained in a year and a half over 1,200 students, faculty, and staff through our Safe Zone program. So I think we do have in the last 2 years a pretty strong history of being able to create bridges to unite communities around the idea of inclusion and what that means. And we intend to continue that work. There are going to be 2 of our largest spaces in the new center that will be available to the campus community.
I wonder if there's ever going to be a time in my lifetime or yours when we don't have to do this identification anymore, or do we want that?
I don't think we do. And the reason that I say that is really to know who people are. For example, for me, I identify as a lesbian, and if someone...
Such an old-fashioned term.
I know, right? We were just talking about that. If someone sort of looked at me and said, you know, I don't really see you as a lesbian, or that doesn't matter to me, then that would really mean for me that they're not seeing who I am wholly. Right? And so I think in those terms, identity does matter. We can't pretend that we live outside of this larger society. However, I would say that we have seen significant trends in our millennial generation who is strongly moving away from identification in all of its forms.
All right, guess what? I knew this would happen. We have to do a longer conversation with you about this stuff. We got to go for now, but thank you. Good luck with the new center, and I'm sure we'll talk before it's open next spring.
All right. Thank you,
State of Mind, and we come back. Stay with us. Call us, leave us a voicemail, 228-1886, or email us, or Facebook post, or whatever. Here's a great page. I love this. This is a real nice reminiscence based on our discussion at McCoy Stadium last week. My wife and I met at McCoy 36 years ago when Ben Mondor bought the club. She was the programs here girl outside the stadium. I was the one running the concessions. They've been married for 30 years. See, McCoy not only makes great family entertainment, but it brings people together. It's a beautiful thing. Check in with us on your state of mind about this program or any other. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow at noon, and of course right back here at 7:30 and 11:30 on My RI TV. My State of Mind. Good night.